Well, Kristjaan, first of all, just tell us about the progress that the Academy's made over the past 6 months in terms of infrastructure. A lot of changes have been made, and at the moment the training ground's a bit of a building site for a reason.
Yeah, I think certainly over the last 6 months has become a lot more visible, the sorts of changes. The changes within the programme have really been going back some 18 months when we had the inception of the EPPP came in, the Elite Player Performance Plan. And since that point, really, it's been an ongoing review and evaluation of on the field and off the field infrastructure, which has accumulated, and obviously some of the things that you see now in and around the training ground. We've had a fantastic show pitch, which has been all fenced off, which has got some great branding around there, which makes it a really good environment for the young players at under 18, under 21 level. And then more recently, in and around the training ground here with the changing room block, a complete refurbishment of this end of the building, really.
I know you and your team have been working really hard to set this in motion. How beneficial will the EPPP be for the club?
Well, I think how beneficial it is long term, I think we'll only know that as we go further through the process. I think what it has done for Birmingham City is it's brought all the departments closer together from a bottom to top perspective, but also across the ranges of different areas: sports science, medicine, your coaches, your technical staff, your administrators. And there's a real understanding now of what goes into the development of the players and how all them departments work together. It's not just the balls on the park, it's not, you've got the transport, you've got the accommodation, there's lots of different factors across there. So I think from that perspective it's very beneficial. Obviously the provision that we're providing the players registered to our club has had a substantial improvement over the last 12, 18 months again. We've increased the coaching hours the boys are getting, increase the level of support and provision from, again, sports science and medical aspects. And then really what we're trying to then provide now is just trying to increase and improve the environment which they come into and work within. There's obviously a lot been made over the previous years. The investment clubs have made up and down the country on multi-million-pound facilities. We're not in a position where we can do that, although the chairman has spoken on previous times about how he'd like to move that forward. There's a current state of affairs where we are. It's a fantastic achievement for the club that they've seen all the work through, regardless of obviously what's been else has been going off the field.
There's been a bit of, not criticism so much, but I've seen people mention the fact that it might be detrimental to some clubs because it means that certain players can move around for set fees rather than bids from teams that are set by the club that has the player. Is that unfair?
Well, there's certainly what they'd like to say is a more transparent compensation system in place. There's not, that compensation system at the present time hasn't really been tested too much or too stringently with any real moves. And again, as time develops and we see what happens, there'll be obviously a bit more evidence to suggest one way or the other. I think there is obviously within the financial side of the youth development, players that move from a club where the club has provided a completely free service in terms of the coaching and development, the club has to be reimbursed for that. And obviously the categorisation allows the bigger clubs to have a better understanding in terms of what they would be paying if they wanted to try and acquire a player from another football club. I think Birmingham City, and from our perspective, we've always tried to operate in the same way, is that if you provide what the boys need, and you give them an environment they want to come to, why would they want to go anywhere else? And I think rather than looking at it as a predatory marketplace, I think if people start looking at it and saying, right, this is what we're about, this is what we're going to give you, this is what we think is important, and you get players and parents to buy into that, then I don't see why you would have too many issues. I think you'll always lose one or two players along the way, and that's always happened and that'll always continue to happen, but it's about selling your own product. We can sell a product here whereby we can show a development. A Callum Riley is a prime example of a 9-year-old who would have come in and around this building, some 10 years ago, who's now playing in the first team. And I think that's what you've got to try and sell.
Was that point proven in a way with the situation with the young boy Fode Nebe, who perhaps there was interest elsewhere, but decided his future was here, just not to.
Yeah, I think. You can't blame a player for wanting, or for him or his parents for wanting to make sure he's in the right place. You know, if you took it from an educational perspective, no one would sit there and say they're going to let their boy go to a substandard school. They would always look to try and get the best school. And if a private school came and offered you a free place, what would you say? But you know, what's been fantastic with that story from our perspective is having gone to some of the real big clubs in and around the country, that boy decided that the best place for him for his development was Birmingham City Football Club. Which is again one of the best sales pitches you can have to any of the other players, and it's a massive mark of support for all the staff and what goes on here.
I suppose he didn't have to look too far into the future to see what can happen to players here. We've seen so many young players from the academy make their debuts over the last 18 months or so. How pleased have you been with the progress that those players have made, because they're all players that have kind of matured while you've been here?
Yeah, I mean, for any of the players, certainly when they get from 14 years and above, you are then becoming in touching distance of being around the team, certainly in the division which we currently find ourselves in. You know, any academy manager up and down the country can put the best programme on they possibly can, and the club can invest the money. What's being highlighted by the EPPP and the movement that going forward is then players have to at some point get an opportunity. Now, for some clubs that opportunity becomes out on loan. You know, what's great for our club is we don't necessarily have to loan them players out to get them an opportunity. There'll always be a need, and there has been more recently, to get players to go out to League One, League Two, conference, local football to get experience as part of their development programme. But for the players that are doing really, really well here, there's not an obstacle for them to get into the first team. You've got an open-minded manager who's willing to pick the players. Our manager has shown a number of occasions he's selected the young players in front of senior players, where, you know, maybe the easy decision is to pick the senior player. I think that shows a level playing field for the players. And if there's a level playing field and an opportunity, that's really the last little bit of inspiration they need to get through.